Hello everyone, welcome to the Yissilmissil Productions channel. My name is Steven Yissel, and today we are interviewing a former guest of the channel. We haven't had him on since October of last year, but I'm sure we have a lot to talk about and a little bit of updates on what's been going on.
Welcome to the Yissilmissil Productions channel. My name is Steven Yissel, and today we are interviewing a
So
former
we
guest
have
of the channel. We haven't had him on
a few technical difficulties here. Hold on. All right. So we are interviewing Jim Wunderlich. He is a broadcasting teacher that I had going to Maine East High School a while back, and now we have him on our show today. Just a brief rundown. Jim's enjoyed dual careers as a broadcaster and educator. He received his MS Ed from Northern Illinois University, and his BA from Carroll College with a degree in sociology and minors in English, religion, and speech communication. And him having worked at radio stations in the Milwaukee, Madison, and Rockford markets, he has extensive experience in a variety of formats, including news talk, top 40 hits, big band, country, and easy listening. In addition to working in radio, Jim taught a variety of courses at the secondary level for more than 30 years. He spent more than 25 years at Maine East High School in Park Ridge, Illinois, teaching radio, TV, film, and oral communication to students representing more than 50 nationalities. And upon retiring in 2012, Jim has had the privilege to host Word of Mouth, a live weekly interview program on WRLR FM. And you could find his work over on wordofmouthfmradio.com/Jim-Wunderlich. So, with all that being said, we will bring Jim into the show. So, just give me a moment here. All right, Jim.
Hey, Steve.
Oh,
How you
boy.
doing?
Hold on a sec. All right. Hey, how you
How
doing,
you
Jim?
doing?
I'm
I'm
d-
I'm great. I'm great. I'm a little sweaty. I just got off the pickleball court a little while ago, so I didn't get to shower up before this video interview.
Oh, that's all
So,
right. It's been a pretty hectic day here myself. I was sending out eBay orders and
oh,
just doing a little
okay.
bit of things here and there. I'm reselling physical media now. I'm keeping it alive.
Oh, okay. Good for you. How's that going?
It's going really well. I have to just constantly be on top of everything, making sure the listings are fresh. And but people are still interested in VHS tapes, DVDs, CDs. So and cassette tapes too. So I'm
Well, there's that vinyl industry that's going crazy, and so
yes,
it's kind of piggybacking on that. People want the old school stuff.
yes, and I've been able to accumulate a lot of vinyl records that people have just thrown in the trash. I haven't gone dumpster diving, but like the thrift stores, they get rid of their inventory like every now and then, and it's like it's either it goes in the dumpster or like I can take them. So I've been fortunate enough to be able to do that, and with the vinyl records, it's a little tricky with boxing them up and shipping them out. So I haven't figured that part out just yet, but I do have a good collection of discarded vinyl. But I know there's a lot of current bands, legendary bands, even
Right,
going
right.
back to like Def Leppard. They're putting out brand new vinyl sets of
Exactly.
their former catalog and their current. So it's
I
really
noticed
interesting.
the vinyl records today are a lot more expensive than when I was buying them.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, they're going like
yeah,
40,
mine were.
50,
I
60.
think. Yeah, I think it was like $3.57 back in my day. So yeah, it's a little more expensive now.
Yeah,
But it's fun to hear the old vinyl. My son has got into the whole vinyl thing, and it's fun going over. and hearing some of the records that he has that are on vinyl. There's something about it that just captures the imagination.
Yeah, and I've actually watched some of these videos where they have the vinyl puck where they're going to press all of the records.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
they have a die that they use for each album where it's just it's on a press. So
Okay.
they do like limited runs, but they go ahead and they put all the little fancy extra like pieces of color on it, and they also have like that little label in the center, but they
Right.
flatten it and they cut off the edges and all that. So it was cool seeing like what they're doing today with it, but
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah,
it's been like
absolutely.
that for quite a while.
Yeah. That's really cool. Well, it sounds like your business is doing pretty well then.
It is. Yeah, and I'm still doing film work too. I was out in McHenry. I went to the
Oh,
Forge.
okay.
There was a band that I work with every year, No Turn on Red, and it's just a really good business relationship where they call me out to go film their show. I set up 2 stage cameras with a main cam on a gimbal, and then we're also getting their set mixed by the venue, as it's like a courtesy of the venue that they got all the multi-tracks and now they're mixing it together for them.
Wow.
So that was really fortunate to have that. But on the off chance that we don't get that, that's when I go ahead and do my own recording of the board, and then that goes into whatever videos that I end up producing for them. But it was a while that I hadn't been doing that, so it was nice. I got like the second wind after going out there to film, so I was really
Oh, yeah.
fortunate.
I've seen your work. It's very good. By the way, the band, what genre are they?
They're funk.
Okay.
So, and they do a lot of covers. So they're not producing their own albums, but they do a lot of like events and parties and all of that stuff. So I'm just helping them along. My whole goal with working with musicians was to help them get to the next level with things, to get
That's
more
great.
exposure.
That's great.
But yeah, thank you for asking.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And
Well, I
so
know you have quite the varied career. For a while, you were a politician,
yeah,
and you've run the gamut.
yeah, I figured, why not, if it feels fun, if I'm getting some enjoyment out of it. I didn't know how the whole process worked, and
And
that
now
was
you do.
now
You
I
do.
do. Yeah,
And most people don't. Hey, you were in the arena. I mean, most of us are outside looking at the folks in the arena, and you were in the arena. And some say politics is the toughest sport, and you had a chance to see it up close. It was Mayor of Niles, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
yeah, yeah. That
Yeah,
was in
yeah,
2017. I can't believe how
yeah,
long it's been since then now.
yeah. Well, it was quite an experience for you, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I did a second run for office at the library. I think it was either 22 or 23.
Okay.
But that one I got double the amount of votes, but still didn't
Oh,
make it.
wow. Well, hey, it's all about name recognition, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm I'm
You
not
just needed
planning on running
200.
again, but if I do, I'm sure I'll have more of that name recognition. It's
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
there's a lot of energy that it takes out of me to you need to find your balance with it. The opponents are going to mix things up with your message, so you have to do your best to try to not over clarify yourself to be like in the like subordinate position in the race. It's like, oh no, they didn't mean that. It's actually this. Like the less that you do that, the more
You want to be on the offense, not the defense.
yes,
Yes.
and you want to be as authentic as possible, because
Sure.
there's also these candidates that are funded from the state level government, that they have all of these subgroups that they have out there helping them, but they have feet on the ground, which is
Right.
one of the most important things, being able
Right.
to go door to
Right.
door and helping
Right.
get the word out to everybody.
Yeah, you need a high-profile PAC, a political action committee to, that's the key, I guess, nowadays. So,
Yeah.
Well, money's the key. Money, and in politics, money seems to win most of the time. So,
Yeah, a lot of these door to door giving just postcards or door hangers out, these PACs go ahead and they pay some of their people to go do that. So they give incentives much more than what I could have provided at the time I was
right,
running.
right, exactly, exactly.
So they,
But good for you for having that opportunity to do it and really taking that experience and grabbing it by the horns. That was great. Good experience for you.
thank you. Yeah, it was I had the passion to do it, and I felt like it was the right thing to do, so I'm thankful for the experience.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Even a bad experience you can learn from.
Yeah.
Not saying that was a bad experience, but any experience can be worthwhile for sure.
We have someone in the chat, Monica, that said hello to you, Jim. So we have our
Shout
watchers
back to
here.
Monica.
Yeah, I've been doing different live streams on other people's channels, and that's helped gain new subscribers and live stream watchers too.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
We've been having a lot of new people come through and checking out what I'm doing here.
Oh, that's great.
I'm doing a
That's
lot of
great.
reading on the channel. I've been going into the Chicago film industry on Saturday mornings. General talk about the updates of the channel on Sundays. And then Tuesdays, I've been covering Coral Castle, which is a location in Florida. And just like 5 foot nothing man just went ahead and built himself this like megalithic castle, like in the middle of nowhere, like right by the Everglades.
Oh my.
Yeah,
I'll be darned.
and I had visited with my family there 2 years ago, so I picked up some literature when I was there, and since then I've gone ahead and read it out loud on my channel, and that's turned into its own deep dive series.
Interesting. That's great.
So it's just stuff that goes and piques my interest. I really like sharing that and encouraging others to look into things more. So
Well, you've
that's the
corked my
route I've
interest
been
about
going
this.
down.
You've corked my interest about this castle. So
Yeah, you should look it up. Yeah,
I've been to the Everglades, and you got to be careful. A lot of boa constrictors and alligators in there. So it's interesting he built his castle there. So
yeah, especially knowing where like all of those dangers right on the other side of the road, practically.
exactly, literally, yeah.
Yeah, so that's been my overall theme of my channel nowadays, and I've also been bringing on guests every week the past 3 weeks.
Wow, good for you.
So
Good for you.
that's why I reached out to you again, because it's been a little while, and I wanted to see how you're doing and get some updates from you. And you still have the word of mouth radio channel.
Yeah,
right?
this is going on. Let's see. Started in 2000. I retired in 2012 in June, and the following January 2013, I started this radio show, and just had a show yesterday. I don't know how many interviews I've done, but it's an hour interview show. It's 11 a.m. to noon, and I'm on the first and third Thursday of the month, so twice a month. And guests come into the studio. The studios are located in Round Lake. We have a brand new building. It's really a state-of-the-art radio station at this point. It's a standalone building, and we've been in a couple of different facilities where we rented before, but now we have our own standalone building. It's just beautiful. I could have up to 6 guests if I wanted to, very comfortably. And it's just a wonderful studio. I tell you, every time I go up there, it's like a dream. In fact, Gary Meyer, the old Chicago disc jockey, said he thought it was better than any station he ever worked at in Chicago in terms of the facilities.
Wow.
And so it's been real fun. And it's again twice a month. But as you know, if you're doing an interview, there's a lot of prep. And number one, you have to get your guest. And there's a lot of prep, depending on if it's out of my, kind of out of my, how do I want to say it? Not in my world, for example. If I'm interviewing a paleontologist, Well, then that's going to take a lot of work and background and all that. And then if I'm going to, for a whole hour, interview somebody who comes in. So the interviews run the gamut from, we've had everybody from a Navy SEAL to a rock star, from a film director to a professional clown, to the youngest female who ever summited Mount Everest, to an interrogator from Guantanamo. So
Wow.
it runs the gamut in just about everything you can imagine. And again, kind of like, what you said, kind of what perks my interest. I might see something in a newspaper, uh, or maybe I'll hear somebody on the radio who did a 5-minute segment on a radio station, and I investigate, give them a call, and say, how would you like a whole hour on mine? So, yeah, I've been really fortunate to have some wonderful guests, and it just has kept my interest level way up. I mean, I'm always, anytime I'm reading something or watching something, I'm thinking, oh, that person could be a good guest. And I had a private detective on a couple of weeks ago. It was just about a month ago. I had a restaurant consultant on who had taken in his career over 700 restaurants that were starting to go out of business. He was able to lift them up. And it was just kind of interesting what you can do as a restaurant consultant, things that you can change so that you're successful. So, and he's interesting because he's has a TV show in Paramount, and he had a column and all this. So, he had a lot of credibility, very interesting. So it runs the gamut. And one fun one I just did yesterday was I had the film professor on, and we were talking about Gene Hackman movies, and actually the career of Gene Hackman, the late Gene Hackman. And I had no idea that he had really done 77 films. A lot of the famous ones, but he's 77 films. He had a wealth of material, so it was kind of fun to kind of go down that road and explore his career.
Wow.
So yeah, the radio show's been a lot of fun. I mean, I've probably interviewed hundreds of guests by now, and to try to remember all of them, I'd have to go look at my file, Steve, because it's the kind of thing where you really dig in for a week or so, and then after you do the interview, you're digging in on something else. But yeah, that's been, it's just been a really wonderful outside activity for me. And it's kind of a little bit like teaching. You got to have a lesson plan, and then, you're trying to be informative, but, trying to maybe entertain a little bit as well. And I always wanted to make the students kind of look good. You're trying to make the guests look good. You want them to succeed, just like you want students to succeed. There just seem to be a lot of parallels between radio interviewing and also teaching. So it's really provided me just a wonderful outlet. I feel very fortunate, and we'll do it as long as my brain can do it. So
That's good to hear. You still sound as sharp as ever.
Oh,
So.
no, I'm not. But, you can hide a lot of things on the radio. Much easier than TV.
Yeah,
You don't see how the sausage is made when you do radio.
Now, do you have ad breaks on your show?
Oh yeah. Take 2 breaks. Well, I have a break before we start. It starts at the top of the hour, and then we will talk for a good 20. It's 27 minutes. Supposedly 27 minutes and 30 seconds. You're supposed to do that, and then have about a 2.5 or 3 minute segment in there, and then I'll play music that will go with the guest. For example, I'm trying to think now. Oh, well, actually, yesterday, so we were talking about Gene Hackman's movie Hoosiers, and then coming out of the break, I'll play a bumper music, the theme from Hoosiers, for example. Or whatever, in other words, it relates to it. Or if I'm talking to the mountain climber, maybe there's that song "Climb" by, Miley Cyrus. So you'll play a little bit of that for the bumper coming out, and then so that gives the guest about 4 or 5 minutes to kind of relax too, because the guest is on stage for 27.5 minutes. I mean, I'm asking them questions, and then they're, trying to be fascinating, and then we come back, and then we'll go another 20 minutes with another quick break, come back, we have about 5 minutes, and then I have to be off by 58 of the hour, because at the top of the hour, there's a show that's syndicated that comes in from New Mexico. So I have to be you got to be right off. And I kind of like that. I like the whole timing thing. I used to enjoy that when I did do radio before I got into teaching, where you'd have CBS radio or whatever it was coming in right at the hour, at the second, and I like that whole. There's a kind of a rush of that studio mechanics too, not just the personality aspect behind the microphone, but that whole thing where you're kind of you're the director. I mean, you're the chief bottle washer. You're doing everything, and having that all kind of come together in a nice, hopefully, seamless way. My listeners point out when it's not so seamless because it's live. It's completely live, without a net, and it's just kind of fun if you can kind of pull that off.
Yeah.
Which there's always going to be a mistake or two. I mean, it's just the way it is, but it's just really fun. And I like the idea too. When the guest comes into the studio, I do it somewhat by phone. But when they come in the studio, then that person's sitting right over here, and you become a team trying to get the best product out. You can tell that when they're on the phone, they're a little more removed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when they're in the studio and they see all the bells and whistles, and whoa, this looks like I'm a co-pilot in front of a jet airliner. Now all of a sudden, oh wow, we want to make this product good. So, and then also I can see nonverbal stuff too. They might say something. I'll go, gee, you're kind of furrowing your brow, and then you can kind of, get more information out of it.
Right, as opposed to being on the phone. Yeah.
Right. But, I can have up to, like I said, up to 6 guests. The most I've ever had is 3. That's about all I can handle. But, yeah, it's been a great outlet. And, I've really enjoyed it. I'm very lucky that it kind of worked out when I retired.
Yeah, I'm so glad to see that you're still at it, and I know it's a passion of yours because you've done this your entire life. So I'm really happy for you that you're still doing it.
And it was fun being able to teach it as well. Back in the day, for sure. I mean, that job was a gift. I almost would have done that job without pay. But there were so many hours I had to take the pay.
Yeah, like how many you had classes every period while at
you would have your 5 sections, but then you had the radio station, and then also the TV station where after school we wanted to do content, and so we had our news shows, our sports talk shows, and a lot of variety of shows. I mean. For a couple of years, we had a show during the 80s, I remember early 90s, a thing called Metalheads. And you mentioned Def Leppard before.
Yeah.
I don't know how this student got it, Nick Allard. We brought Def Leppard into somehow they came into the radio station.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that. That was so amazing.
And Megadeth. We got Megadeth, too. I mean, it was, wow. I think they thought we were a bigger station than we were.
Probably.
Because the guy who was producing it, the student, he was a good talker, and he could sell ice to an Eskimo. So I think it really it worked out. And the sports show was a lot of fun. We'd have a lot of the people, some of the, I guess I'd call them like the sports anchors and stuff would come in from the TV stations, and then they'd be on the show, and not in an interview situation. They'd be part of the roundtable, the Chalk Talk show, where we expected them to be just a guest. A guest in terms of you're going to contribute. We're not going to ask you about your career. We're going to be talking about the Bulls, the Bears, or whatever, the Sox, the Cubs, the Hawks. And you're going to become part of the show. You're not going to be the star of the show. And so those kids had a lot of moxie, too, without a doubt. So it was all fun, Steve. It was all fun.
Yeah, I was going to ask about how, sorry to switch subjects here, but you were talking about your new studio that you're at now, the updated one. Does it still have all of the physical analog, like boards?
Well, yes and no. We're kind of, the board is analog, but then if I do a guest, it's Bluetooth.
Okay.
And then, you're having to, go into settings and all that kind of stuff. So and then our commercials are digital. So, but what I do like is they did decide to keep the board. It's a very fancy board, with a lot of bells and whistles on it. But they did keep the board. So you actually do have a pot, a lever on a channel where I can go up and down. And I do like that because, I worked at another station in Wisconsin for a while when I retired. And everything there was just like, you kind of blow on it, and press a button here and all that. I do like that tactile feeling of bringing the channel down.
Yeah.
Not to get too technical, geeky about it, but that analog part is still kind of fun. But we're kind of, it's kind of both. It's really half and half. And actually, we're on automation sometimes, so that's completely digital. I guess too, I never think about it, but we're also on video when the show's on. I don't really pay attention to it because I like to think of radio as theater of the mind. I really don't want people to watch me while I'm doing radio. I think it just kind of kills the whole idea of theater of the mind.
Right.
And so a lot of times I'll actually fade it to another camera that's showing just nothing. They don't like that, but it's really I don't need to be seen while I'm doing radio. It doesn't make any sense to me. So Twitch, I guess it's called Twitch. That's it.
Yeah.
So so which is pretty common now with all these radio stations. But no, it's a beautiful facility. For a while, I was in the 13 years I've been there now, or 12 years, I guess it is, going on 13. This is the third studio that I've been at WRLR. Before we were in a rented building. Then we moved to the train station for a while. We were at inside a train station for about 2 years as this was being built. And now we've been at the standalone facility, I think about 2 years now. But, people are still learning the digital aspect of it. There's no doubt about it.
And it's still broadcast to normal AM radio stations?
This is FM, 98.3.
98?
FM, 98.3.
0.3, okay.
Now you can get us all over the globe, because of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
You just go to WRLR.fm and, you can, just go to our website and just press listen. And, you can get the app and listen on the phone as well. In terms of coverage in the car, we cover Lake County, McHenry County, Kenosha County, and parts of Cook, and that's about it.
No, that's still a lot. Because I was about to actually follow up with you on that to ask about the range that the broadcast signal is. So
well, I had a listener yesterday say they were listening in the car in Cary. We have a guy who listens to us who's gotten us in DuPage County. But most people, if you want to listen, if you're not in the car, just listen. You just say Alexa, WRLR, or you could, whatever you want to do, and it comes right up. Or even on your computer, just go to WRLR and you press the button, and there it is. Because I've had listeners in Arizona, New Mexico, Indiana. Not that there's a lot, but there's pockets, all over.
Yeah, I actually also have another follow-up question with that. Last year, I went to the East Coast with family, and on our way back, once we got into Nashville, Tennessee, we were able to pick up local WGN radio from Chicago down in Nashville. Now, I know there's towers that are positioned at like intervals to get that signal down there, but do you have any more details on that, on how that all works?
Well, WGN's antenna, if I'm not mistaken, it used to be over on the old 53 south of Schaumburg, near Itasca. Very big tower. That's a 50,000 watt clear channel. So on 7:20 a.m., no other radio station in the country can broadcast on that bandwidth. And 50,000 watts goes a very far away because the waves are bouncing. And actually, GN can, I think you can pick it up in 38 states. Wow. It has a hard problem getting over the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah, I'd imagine that.
But, so that whole southern corridor, you can pick up WGN. Nashville, as you were saying.
Yeah. But that's generally how that works, like the bouncing effect? Because I really wanted to visualize how that works. So
the clear channels, so you don't have anybody else you're competing against.
Okay.
Like 98.3, if you we sometimes will overlap with a station that's across Lake Michigan, which is only 40 miles. It's not I think it's Grand Rapids, and they've got a very powerful station over there. And so that sometimes will interfere as you get to the I don't want to say coast, but I guess the shoreline of Lake Michigan. That station will start to interfere with ours because both of us, the one in Grand Rapids and us, we're sharing that channel. And that's just the way it is. And also FM, that's kind of the way it is. It starts to die after about 75 miles.
Okay. No, that's real fascinating because I'm looking into radio right now. Very, very early stages of looking into all this. But just for me to explain to the viewers here and listeners too, we have these radio stations that are broadcasting, and they operate more like similar to like lanes on a highway, and it could be also stacked. Is that correct? Where they all have their individual channels.
Right, right. And most stations share channels. Very few have that clear channel, like WGN, WBBM, have that channel up to themselves. And FM, what happens, those are line of sight waves. So, if this is the tower, it goes line of sight, but when you get to the horizon line, it dies out. So now that's after about 75, sometimes 100 miles. I guess I've heard 101.9, probably all the way up to Sheboygan, but that's really unusual. Most of the Chicago stations, if you start to drive north, by the time you get to Milwaukee, then the Milwaukee FM stations start to come in.
Mm-hmm.
Now AM, because when they bounce, and particularly if you're a 50,000 watt channel, you got a big transmitter. Power is a big thing too. So the more watts you have, like WMTH, we were a 10 watt station. So, we had the antenna on top of the tower at Main East. And then we were 10 watts. We still reached, believe it or not, we had a market share of 250,000 people because that's a very populated area.
Mm-hmm.
But it dies out pretty quickly.
It sounds like just 10 watts gets pretty far in terms of.
Yeah, I mean, even if it only goes, say, 12 miles on each side, you're looking at Niles, Park Ridge, Display. I mean, that you start adding it up, you can get quite a sizable population there in parts of Chicago. So
yeah, and a lot of that area is mostly flat. We have a few rivers too, but I mean, it's really nothing in terms of interference.
And homes are together. I mean, you can get a lot of, and people are driving in that area too. So our reach was there.
When these channels are sharing a station, do they once one is about to go off the air, do they just shut their signal off to let the other one come in?
No, the other one will just start to take over. That's all that'll happen. Because you're by the FCC will say, look, you're a 100 watt station, you're 10 watts, you're 5,000 watts, you're 10,000 watts, and eventually that's going to die. That's going to die.
So are they sharing?
Yep.
Like the actual antennas and all that? Okay.
Yeah, you're well, not antennas, but they actually on the Sears Tower, Willis Tower, there's several that are, you see those big towers up there.
Yeah, the vertical ones.
There's several stations that will rent that tower.
Okay.
Because the FM stations will, for sure. But no, I get back to WGN. That's what makes it so special, that 50,000 clear watt. And then the score, WSCR, is a 50,000 watt too. And that's why you'll see like the Chicago Cubs are like on WSCR. That reach is incredible. You can, if you want to listen to Cubs baseball on the radio, I'm in Ohio, I can pick them up. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I was just impressed that we could listen to this as far as Tennessee and Nashville. Yeah. So I was thinking about that for over the past year, like how would that work? But I came to the conclusion that it was towers that were spaced out individually, but you're saying it's a rolling or bouncing effect because
Well,
of the power.
that's with AM. But if FM want to go a little further, they may have what they call a translator and another tower that they can pick up and get a few more, a little bit more. Okay. Chicago, the FM stations want to reach all of Chicago. So some of them do have translators so they can get to McHenry County, Kane County, or whatever. So they will have that, a translator. And that would be another smaller tower to kind of push it out.
Okay. But WGN doesn't use that due to the way it works.
To my knowledge, and again, I've been retired now for 13 years, so I don't keep up with it as much as I used to. To my knowledge, I don't believe they need it, but it would be something to investigate.
Cool. Yeah, it fascinates me, and especially right now with looking into the different the radio waves. I was seeing that mercury was if you were to shake it, if it was in a vial, that it would pick up radio signals.
Oh yeah, there's a great story about that. So there was a radio station that was south of San Diego, and actually they're broadcasting in Mexico. Rumor had it was there were no rules, right? So they were broadcasting. Now this is Wolfman Jack was the disc jockey down there, and he would play all kinds of avant-garde rock and roll back in the '60s. And rumor has it that they were going at like 500,000 watts. Now I didn't even know you could make a transmitter that big, so I'm sure that's all folklore. But they were pumping out more than 50,000 watts, maybe 100,000, because you could get them up in Saskatchewan. I mean,
Wow.
they were just, from like Tijuana or wherever they were, and then broadcasting out. And the rumor was, this gets back to your mercury, back in the day, I guess if you were near the transmitter of that station and you had a filling that had mercury in it, you could hear the music coming out of your teeth.
Wow. That's something. That's incredible.
Now, whether that's folklore or not, I know, but that's what they said about this, Sounds, well, I know they were pumping it out, though, that's pretty far. So
Yeah, because there's also, that reminds me of some of these older, I don't think it's necessarily older, but back in the 90s, they had these toys for kids, but it wasn't necessarily a toy, but it was like a lollipop holder. The device would have something where you would put the lollipop in your mouth and bite down on it, and you would hear music in your head. And apparently it was like this, it was like bone resonance or something, but it had something to do with the audio. And apparently they have that now with like the cochlear implants for the hearing impaired. And it sits on one of the back ends of the skull, and you're able to hear the music for some reason.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Wow. What an invention.
Yeah. So that reminded me of that. But what would have kept anyone from broadcasting higher than the 50,000 watts in the past before the regulations? And what would have been the disadvantages to doing that?
Well, fine from the FCC. So, and you can be fined pretty heavy for. I mean, they say, look, you're going to broadcast 10 watts, 100 watts, whatever it is. You got to broadcast at that. And WMTH, I think our transmitter could have gone up above 10 and gone to 12 watts or something. But that's why we're taking meter readings. Do you remember when we were taking meter readings? We had to take those every 3 or 4 hours. Does that ring a bell with you?
It does. I mean, I'm thinking of seeing the meters in the studio.
We had meters in that one room, and that's true of every radio station. Now they're all taking. You don't have to have a guy go in there with a clipboard and do it. You have to go in there every 3 or 4 hours with a clipboard and do it, and then mark it down and keep it in a folder. Now it's all digital and programmed. DJs don't have to worry about that anymore. But
would there be a chance that the meter reading would be off from what you were expecting?
Oh yeah. So you go in and check, and then okay, looks like we're going a bit beyond the power, or off our bandwidth a little bit or whatever, and then you would adjust it. I'm sure now digitally that's all done. Like where I'm working, I haven't taken a meter reading. It's done automatically.
Nice.
You don't have to worry about it. So that's all, and that's a good thing. So.
Yeah.
But you could be fine though, Steve. If you cannot go, you got to stay in your bandwidth, and you got to stay in your power, or the FCC is going to fine you.
Yeah,
And,
it sounds very similar to what low range, like private plane pilots have to deal with, where they have to stay at a certain elevation.
Exactly what you're saying. Perfect. Yes, same analogy. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be looking into a lot more of this, especially the stories that you told about this other one that was going rogue.
Like I said, that could be folklore.
Yeah, it very well could be. I know
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that's fluffed up to make it sound more entertaining or more appealing, but yeah. But so as far as like what I'm doing here with these shows, it's very freeform, as I'm sure that you've noticed at this point. There's no ads while we're live. There's some randomly inserted for some viewers, but that's because of the channel being monetized. But I tend to really just like bringing guests on, having a basic rundown, a basic outline that I have for what I'd like to talk about. Most times we just wing things here, and so I really appreciate that you're doing that with me today. We didn't plan what we were talking about today, but it's more of a just play it by ear type of deal.
Sure, absolutely.
It's not. I'm not taking this, I guess, as seriously as I should. But with all the other things in the background, like we have this blue. I put like it looks like radio waves to me. So I wanted to put that up, and we got both of us on the screen today as opposed to just one. There's like audio issues. I don't know what was going on earlier, but like there's all these little things. If you're not having all of these things run smoothly, yes, people are going to point it out, like you said earlier. Like you're let known when things go wrong, but when things are right, it's very quiet, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess things are going the way they should be then.
Perfect, and particularly with audio, we expect audio to go perfect. If you let's say you go to the Marriott Theater tonight, and you're watching the actors and actresses, you don't expect any feedback. I mean, you expect it to be perfect. And what's interesting, I'd say 100%, it usually is 99%. I've never heard any bad audio there. In fact, afterwards, I'll go see the audio guy. My God, you had 20 people out there in a little circular stage. They were all mic'd up. How did you do it? But we audio, the expectation is, we expect when something goes wrong, it's people look, they notice it, and we have high expectations of radio that we don't even know we have, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yes.
You just expect it to be good. It's
part of that whole immersion into whatever program that you're watching or listening to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I've done the stage play stuff where I'm all mic'd
up. You had a lead. You had the lead.
Yeah, one of the leads. I was like part of led the whole third act to one play.
Was that Bye Bye Birdie? Was that Bye Bye Birdie? Or am I wrong on that?
Bye Bye Birdie, I was the father of the main character.
Yes. I remember that.
That was really fun to do. And also, Martha was a classmate of mine going back to preschool, so that was really cool to do that with her.
Wow.
Like the history behind that, and then she's like playing like part of my family, like she's my daughter, and then she's running after this Elvis character. Yeah. The 2 years prior to that, though, I did a stage play at Maine East. Also, they gave me the entire third act. I was doing this Humphrey Bogart-esque character where I'm talking. Kidding. Yeah, I'm like talking to the front of the theater there. It's almost like I'm breaking the fourth wall most times, and I'm explaining to the audience like, well, I'm going to go investigate this over here. But it was just chunks and chunks and chunks of dialogue.
Oh my gosh.
And I felt like that was a punishment at first. But it turned out to be fine. And then later on at the Des Plaines Theater, I was a stagehand for a vampire musical, which was very interesting within itself because it was still not what it is today. Ron Onesti purchased that theater. He runs a few other theaters in St. Charles. But he revamped the entire.
I've talked to him. I have.
You have? Yeah, he's a good dude.
I've gotten guests actually through Ron.
That's incredible.
Yeah, well, he knows everybody.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. Yeah, he revamped that whole theater though. I'm sure it looks beautiful inside there now.
You're talking about, well, that's the Des Plaines Theater, right?
Des Plaines Theater, yeah.
He also has the Arcada Theater in St. Charles.
Yes.
Same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I saw Gallagher there, as well as a few other musicians.
No kidding.
Yeah, he did the whole.
Did you get splashed by a pumpkin?
Yeah, he had the watermelon, and they had those.
The watermelon, yeah.
They had the plastic sheets for the whole rows of in the audience, so they could pull it up if you wanted to. But yeah, that was fun, and I got to meet him in the hall after the show. Like he was right in the front area by the gift shop and everything. Just talking to the fans that wanted to say hi. So Ron really makes those intimate experiences possible. So I'm really thankful for him doing that.
Really great. Yeah.
But yeah, the Des Plaines Theater, it's been there well over 100 years. It used to host vaudeville. So
I know. Yeah.
I'm glad that didn't disappear. I'm seeing so many different movie theaters that are closing down, but we still have the ones here. And I'm thankful for the ones we do have,
The one, I live in Libertyville, as you know. We have the Liberty Theater that's been there forever. It's been closed probably about a half a dozen years. But the building is still there, waiting for somebody to come in and do something. And it would be neat if it could become a fine arts movie theater or something could be done with it. So if you have any contacts or whatever, Steve, throw it out there because as of now, they still have not demolished it yet. They're still, and it's been years.
Is it on Milwaukee Avenue?
Yes, it is.
I think I know the one you're talking about.
The marquee is still there. Liberty is still there. So.
Well, I need to win the lottery or something so I can open it back up.
No kidding. Yeah, I can't imagine how much you'd have to invest.
Yeah. As much as I'd like to have a movie theater, first and foremost, I want to have a film studio. So I'd like to do that first. And then have a theater as a secondary thing. But having
you need a place to show your films then.
Yeah. and I want to help as did you with bringing the next generation into the business. I want to be able to teach others what I've been taught and how to run things as a team. Because I know there's a lot of me mentality these days. But opening that up and showing the vulnerability of a crew and how every person matters. I want to be able to teach that to the people coming up or the ones who are passionate and want to get into it like I am.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it really is one of the most collaborative art forms you can have, without a doubt. And it is really something where you just have to collaborate for it all to work. All these pieces that have to happen. And that even comes down to the caterer. I mean, as you get bigger and bigger, or the driver who might be bringing somebody in that has to be there at that time. I mean, there's so much coordination to it. I've had the privilege of being on a variety of movie sets. Former students who are now directing and been able to, have some backing for some different films. And it's always interesting to me to be kind of that fly on the wall and watch all the different things that have to come together for it to work. And just the professionalism and the teamwork. And, when you're ready, finally the lighting and everything is ready to go and everybody is just so focused to make it work. And, we all just see the actors, right? Or what we call the talent. The real talent, a lot of times, is all those people that are there behind the scenes, without a doubt. Wouldn't happen otherwise. So
Yeah, yeah, and it's very easy to forget with all that stuff too. That you have when we say crew, it's not just one batch of people working.
exactly.
You have the specialists for the lighting, you have the specialists for the cameras, you have the other specialists for like the set decorating. Everything comes into play, and especially if like the catering is like off schedule, you don't want to have hangry actors and crew, because then that turns
You
the
want hot
tides.
food. You want hot food. I mean, so
Mm-hmm.
there's that whole thing that's going on. I used to say back in the day, kids who were doing their first film, even in high school, hey, have a sandwich for whoever. If somebody's helping you out with a film, have a candy bar at least, or a Coke or something that that keep them going. I mean, particularly if you're doing, let's do it again. Let's take two, take three, take four. We got to get this right. You got to keep a happy crew. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
It's very important. Yeah.
and I've
And
noticed.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, in a set, if you can, with the least amount of tension.
Yes.
A former student of mine, I don't know if you know Ryan Lamar, but he's had a chance to do some pretty big time films, and where he's gotten wide release in theaters. And what I noticed about him was his calm demeanor on the set. I mean, all this stuff could be happening all around him, and just the calm demeanor, and how that can just bring everybody kind of, everybody then is just no one's screaming around or anything, and how important that can be.
I think that's very important you pointed that out, because I think a lot of people, especially on film sets, look toward the director to see how the vibe is. If
Yep.
they're concerned, if they're not comfortable, then that's going to make everybody else uncomfortable.
Right.
So
right.
you do need to have that calm demeanor. And also, if things go wrong, like if you have to delay the set, everything's like timed out by the hour.
Right.
And so like I like to have that rigid schedule, but when you have to deviate from that, being able to be grounded and centered when you're changing things also helps everybody move along in that same
Right.
flow.
Right. Right. I think that's one thing. If you're on a set, plan on there being delays. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're an actor and you're on the call sheet for 3:30 p.m., you might not be on till 10:30 p.m. and kind of just figure that could happen. Now, if you're a big star and a big name, it probably won't happen. But maybe you have to wait an hour or something. But if if you just have a bit part or something, it may not happen at that particular time. So, and then the director can advise you, hey, you're going to have to wait. There's going to be some waiting time in a very calm manner. But meanwhile, we've got some hot food for you over here. Oh, okay.
We have a question from the chat, and we're getting close to wrapping up the hour here
Sure.
with Jim. But I wanted to share one of these questions that just popped up. Andres asked, "What's the weirdest thing you have heard while scanning frequencies?"
Wow. Well, you know what? Every now and then you can pick up a pirate station. And I've only had this opportunity once or twice. And what I was picking up was basically it was, I guess I can say it was some profanity, because this was a pirate station. So, they don't have any FCC regulations. But it wasn't necessarily just that. It was a pretty good speech with some expletives in it. And it had to do with race. It was about, at that time, I don't want to get too controversial here at the end, but but it was, it was about a controversial topic.
So
And maybe you wouldn't hear on regular radio, but pirate radio was giving that opportunity or avenue for this person to speak out and have people contribute to it too. So that was probably the I just kind of came upon it and I was like, wow, this is different. But you want to know something? I didn't want to turn it off either because it was fascinating.
Now, is that
And
like a ham radio operator?
no, this was on the radio dial, and I must have been pretty close to where he was broadcasting, and it was at the very end of the dial. It was like between 88 and 92 in there,
Okay.
where you have more educational stations like WMTH and stuff. And yeah, I just picked it up, and it was just one of those, lucky things. I was down like the south side of Chicago or someplace in there. This is so many years ago, Steve. I mean, this is many, many years ago,
Yeah.
you know. But I remember the fact that I remember it. I remember this was kind of interesting because it wasn't not a typical station. It was just somebody's probably got the equipment and decided to give it a go.
Yeah, they're
So,
just broadcasting without
right,
following
right,
regulations or anything.
right.
Okay. Very cool.
In fact, there's a movie about that. Real quick aside, they made a big budget movie. And it's a true story about there was this boat that was out over in London, out in the on the what would that be? What sea that is that? Irish Sea or something. What it doesn't matter. But they were off coast, and they were a pirate station on a boat, broadcasting all kinds of rock and roll music and stuff. And they got fined and figured out. But they made a movie about that. The movie is actually more interesting than the story.
It sounds like a good setup for a movie. That's probably why it was made. So basically, for like the most part, you're not seeing other channels that are crossing their signals.
No,
Right.
no. I'm not seeing pirate stations and that. No, and particularly in this market, you're not going to see it for the most part. It just there's really no room with the bandwidth. I mean, everything's pretty much taken. You know, WMTH, that channel that we have there for District 207. I mean, that's pretty special. You know, to now, if you're a high school and you now want to have a channel, it'd be very difficult to get. You'd have to get somebody else's. So
Yeah, it's the longest running school radio station, correct?
right in the country, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the historical aspect of it. Maine East
Oh, yeah.
has a good a footprint in that regard.
And we always have to say Harrison Ford was a sports director there, and Hillary Clinton was a news director. We always got to give those plugs.
She was a news director. Wow.
Yeah, and for WMTH, yes.
Okay. And what about Rich Koss? Was he doing
Oh yeah,
anything there too?
he was a wacky DJ. Yeah, oh definitely. Yeah, he was definitely very involved with the radio station.
For
He was
those,
in theater too. I mean, he did it all. You know, TV, the whole bit.
we're talking
Yeah.
about Sven Gulli. For those
He's a
that don't
treasure.
know. Yeah.
He's still a treasure. He's wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, he's just great.
Okay, I have one more follow-up question.
Sure.
They're asking, do you think some frequencies are looked at closely or closed off so regular people scanning don't find it by accident? So I guess it's more like, are there private radio channels that are being broadcast that people...
I don't. They may be. I think they're going to be very difficult to find on your car radio. That to me seems more like a ham radio type of thing.
Yeah, that's what it
And
sounds like to me, yeah.
and I'm not real familiar with ham radio as much. But for you to find that on your car radio as you're just clicking through, I think it'd be pretty rare to find it. But it could happen in other areas, maybe. There's a smaller market size, maybe.
Yeah, and I guess to follow up, because I'm not sure how long Andres has been here listening, but we were speaking earlier about how all of these different frequencies and signals they have their own lanes like a highway, and they're also stacked like up and down throughout the different I'm using different terms here because I'm just going off the cuff, but everyone has their certain broadcasting frequency that they can go out, that they're designated to, and that way these stations don't cross over in that way. And
Right, and that's monitored by the Federal Communications Commission. So,
and it would be similar to an airplane flying at a certain elevation, they have to get permission to be at that elevation or go up or go down. And that's just to make sure everybody's not crossing paths.
Hey, Steve, I got a question about that. What about drones? Is that being monitored by the government yet?
Yes, they are. So the drones that you can get for like 2-3 grand, that has all, like, you have the little radio control thing with the monitor.
Yeah.
You need a license for those in most places, especially in Cook County. If you're wanting to get like a city shot of downtown, you need to let them know you're putting the drone up there. Otherwise, you're going to get in big trouble. But it wasn't like that at first. So always, like, when there's a technology in its infancy, you get to play around with it a little more than usual.
Yeah.
I'm sure they wouldn't get in trouble doing it somewhere like an hour or two down south in the farmlands, like, because nobody's going to really be there to monitor it or call it in. But it's also, just a general public safety concern, because you don't want somebody taking a drone out for nefarious purposes, like nose dive it into somebody walking on the Mag Mile or something, The
Wild, Wild West. Yeah, don't want that. Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh, man.
it's something I want to still
world.
do. I want to get my license for it to be a drone operator. A lot of people are requesting it for weddings, and
Okay.
with weddings, it's really not an issue. You can get away without having to communicate that you're putting it up in the air. If you're just getting a property shot, you're only going up about 100 feet in the air.
Sure.
That's fine.
Sure.
But if you're going pretty high up there, you're going to start messing with air control traffic and all of that. And I don't know exactly how high some of these drones can go. The ranges are getting wider and wider, though.
That would have been fun, though, to initially to be able to have a drone for WMTH TV for kids for projects and stuff, to get that overhead wide angle. All of a sudden, that makes that particular video, it just gives it that impact to have that shot.
Yeah, it's like a crane shot.
Well, actually, helicopter shot.
Or
back in
helicopter.
the-
Yeah.
You had to rent a helicopter. I mean, if you watch the old movies from the 70s that have that angle, that's from a helicopter. So, the drone thing is how handy. It's so handy. It really is.
Yeah.
Good thing you should get a license. Otherwise, it's going to be crazy up there. So,
Yeah. I mean, if I want to get more work in this area, it's a necessity going
I see.
forward. So more so than it was just a few years ago, because the live stream thing picked up a lot 5 years ago, and I was trying to get musicians to have live performances online. We had studios that we were working out of in Grays Lake, but that was a whole process, getting like the internet wires put together, getting the different hard cams all synced up and into the studio, back in the studio by the board. You have the operator there with their monitors, and then not only that, you have the sound engineer that's miking up everybody in the studio.
oh gosh.
And then I have to make sure I'm not tripping over the cords while I'm walking with the main cam, getting all the moving shots with the gimbal. It was a lot of planned coordination.
Oh,
So
yeah,
going
absolutely.
back again to what we were talking about with that.
Absolutely.
But it's a little over the hour now, so I want to thank you, Jim, for being here. I didn't want to keep you too long today. But
Hey, it was a pleasure, Steve. Always great to see you. And sounds like you've got a lot going on. And continued success, man. I wish you all the best. And this was just a lot of fun. Thanks so much for having me on your show. Really fun.
yeah, thank you too, Jim. I appreciate it. I'm gonna keep you in the back on Zoom so we can talk after I end the show here. But I'll let you go now, and I do hope to have you back on again soon, and maybe we can plan out a little more of what we'll be talking about, because I just had on my mind, we're going to talk about radio today, but I didn't really communicate that with you, and you were okay with that, so I
Well,
appreciate
thank
it.
God we didn't talk about pickleball, because I'd still be talking.
Maybe we'll work that into the next show. Hear about pickleball, because I'm really unfamiliar with it. So I know it's been getting real popular. Well,
Thanks
thank
so
you, Jim.
much, Steve. Thank you.
All right, you have a good one.
Yeah, bye-bye.
All right, everyone. Thank you for being here today. We will be trying to do a few more interviews for the month, but it was really great to have Jim here. He's been a mentor to many people that I've crossed paths with in my life, so I'm glad he's continuing doing this. Just being in his element, I really think it's a good thing for the soul. But this will be it for today. I really appreciate y'all being here. Thank you, and until the next one, class dismissed.